webinar, which is all about posting great social media content. Before we get started here, I'm hoping just for a confirmation that everyone can hear me okay. Typically the sound is a little bit quiet on these webinars, so you may need to turn up your volume a little bit. But if you can hear me, oh, look at that. Right away I got comments. Really appreciate that, guys. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Melanie. Perfect. So I'm so glad that you've all tuned in for today's webinar. For those of you who haven't met me yet, or those who haven't tuned into one of these webinars before, my name is Wade Patterson, and I'm the Social Media and Communications Coordinator with RE/MAX of Western Canada. So a little bit about myself. I started in this role last August, and it's been great learning more about the real estate industry and showing how social media is really becoming increasingly important for agents. Please know that you can reach me anytime with questions. My email is wpatterson@remax.net, Patterson with one T, or you can call me at 1-800-563-3622 and ask for Wade. A few people have reached out to me after some of these early webinars, and I really appreciate getting these questions. And I just want to be clear off the start. There are no bad questions. I think social media in general can be intimidating at times, especially if it's brand new for you. So I don't want anyone to be nervous, even if it's a question such as, how do I get on Facebook? How do I set up an account? Or what is a hashtag? There have even been a few questions I've gotten which I had to do a little bit more research about, just to be clear. So please, if you have questions or even a comment about a future webinar topic you'd like to see, please reach out to me. And as some of you may have noticed in the bottom left-hand corner, we have a hashtag for today's webinar as well. It's hashtag RE/MAXSocial. So for those of you who are on Twitter, feel free to get the conversation going. Use this hashtag today, and if there's any tidbit of advice you think is worth sharing, that's a great place to do it. Just a heads up in terms of what social media webinars we've been through so far and what's coming up. So this is the 4th social media webinar I've put on. The first was social media tips and advice for agents. The second was Twitter 101. And then last month we did a webinar on Facebook for beginners. And all of those webinars were recorded, and you can find them either on our RE/MAX of Western Canada YouTube channel or the Region Update website, which is remax-western.ca/blog. So I'm well aware that many of you are at different levels of social media experience. So some of you are brand new, and honestly, good for you for putting in the effort and getting yourself dedicated to get more active on social. For others of you, you have maybe heard the basic webinars all the time, and you're looking for the latest information on social. You're wanting to know what platforms are new, how to increase engagement, and how you can use social media advertising effectively. My goal is to work from the ground up. So I want to start with these beginner webinars early on and, kind of get the basics going so that there's always that reference for agents who are new. And then we're going to work and get into a little bit more advanced. But today is a great example of kind of a hybrid, because no matter where you are on social media, whether you're brand new or whether you've been on it for a long time, we all have to post content. That's a part of all of our jobs being active on social media. So this is a webinar that really relates to everyone, and one I'm really excited about doing today. So there's 4 topics we're going to touch on in today's webinar. And the first, just in general, why is it important to post content on social media? Number 2, what content should you avoid posting? So some examples of what you want to not do. The third, what is good social media content? So this is for people who maybe don't have time to be really going out of their way to do the great content, but still want to have a good presence, the good content, and then most importantly at the end we're going to get into what makes great social media content. So there are several reasons why it's a good idea to be posting relevant and engaging content on a regular basis. But the first is that if you just set up a Facebook page and you leave it completely empty, people who come across it, if they're searching for your business, they may make a few assumptions. They might be unfair assumptions, but they might make these assumptions nonetheless. First, it looks lazy. If you're posting every couple months or not at all, your profile is going to look barren. People may associate this with being unreliable, or perhaps just, frankly, you're not up to date on technology. If at some point you've bitten off more than you can chew with regard to social media, so say you attended a conference and you heard a speaker say, hey, you know what, you need to be on all these social media platforms. I want you to add 5 social media platforms immediately. And then you went ahead and did that, but you haven't really touched those accounts, I'd suggest deleting the ones that are empty or inactive. Instead, there's nothing wrong with focusing your attention on a couple of accounts that you feel comfortable with. Once these have become no problem to manage and you're getting pretty good at it, then sure, feel free to add more accounts. But you just don't want to leave those accounts out there if you're not doing anything with them. It can look really bad. And by the way, for those of you wondering, I know you see my name here, Wade Patterson. This isn't my real Facebook account. I just made this for the purposes of this webinar to have a screenshot there. I'd be pretty worried if I saw this slide and I thought, this is the guy who's teaching me social media. So don't worry, that's not my real Facebook. So later on in today's webinar, I'm going to get into the examples of great content. But just so you know, this picture example here is an example that belongs in the great category, in my opinion. But why I bring it up now is to answer the question, why post content? And I think posting content is a great way to encourage interaction and create discussion. So in this picture, Colin and his dad, Wolf Krieg, they're from Kelowna, they post these types of videos on a monthly basis. So the one pictured here, it says, the title is, Are Houses Going Extinct? And these videos, they're awesome. If you've ever checked them out, you can search them on YouTube. They're highly entertaining, but they're also informative, and they create discussion, and they're relevant to the local Kelowna market. And if you look, they're getting pretty incredible interaction as well. Here in the black circle, I have how many views their last video had. 3,424. Pretty impressive. And you see here on Colin's Facebook, more than 40 people have liked this, and they're also getting, I think it was 11 comments there as well. So this is an example of how great social media content can really drive engagement and what you can expect once you are posting great content. All right, now into the content to avoid. So some of these are funny, some of them are head-shaking worthy, but we'll just go through a few of those. So every now and then when I log on to Remax of Western Canada's Twitter account, I see examples such as the one you see pictured above on my Twitter homepage. And my Twitter feed is overrun by these rapid-fire tweets. Looking for a buyer, check out our listing. Looking for a buyer, looking for a buyer. And look to the timings. The first tweet was posted 17 seconds ago, then 18, 19, 20, 20, 21, 22. The reason I post this picture is to give you an example of what I think is a bad use of social media. But I blanked out the name because really I'm not here to poke fun of anyone, and I never want to call someone out. Like I said, there's no bad questions, and as you get learning on social media, you may make some mistakes. But I never want you to feel ostracized or feel bad for something you've been doing. But this is a real example, and this user may just not understand this looks really, really bad to anyone else who is following their account on Twitter. And perhaps not surprisingly, you can click on this user's account, you can scroll down their page, all of the tweets are similar to this, and not surprisingly, there's very few retweets or favorites. So what they're posting, it doesn't seem to be connecting with everyone. It's just kind of being sent out there and doing nothing. In my Twitter 101 webinar, I use the metaphor Twitter is a cocktail party. And I've heard a lot of other people say that as well, and I know I'm not the first to say that. But if you think about it, using this picture example here, if you were to go to a party, walk up to a conversation, interrupt everyone, and just name off 10 of your listings, asking if anyone is a potential buyer, that would go completely against social etiquette. But what I think we forget sometimes is that social media, too, has an etiquette to it. So you need to be careful and not go against those. So the other example here on the right is from Facebook, and it's a text-heavy Facebook listing that doesn't link to anything. And yes, I'm sure if someone was interested in this listing, they'd take the next step, they'd comment, they'd message the owners. But the fact is you're making the consumer take that extra step. So at least, and this is a point Valerie Garcia's made in the past, if you're posting a link to a listing, at least have a link to where that's going. My own personal view is I don't think social media is a great place to post listings. However, some people are insistent on doing it. They're going to do it. So if you are going to, the least I'd say is sandwich those listings between lots of interesting, relevant, and engaging content. And also provide a link, just so you don't have this big block of text. And also, rather than have that big chunk of text, why not just do a couple paragraphs there and just break it up? It's so easy to see all of that text and have your eyes glaze over. So when I get into posting good content, that section of this webinar, I'm going to mention that sharing others' good social media content fits into this category. So I don't think sharing really constitutes the best content because it's not your own. However, it's still good, and it's good for a couple of reasons. One, you're engaging with someone else, and that person will see that you took the time to share whatever they had posted. But also, if what you're sharing is good, relevant content, you're also giving your own social media network something that's worthwhile. But with that said, I strongly suggest that you don't simply just share something without adding your own voice, your own text. So in the picture example here, I could just share this as is and hope that people will look down at the link, read it themselves, and then decide that it's worthwhile. But just think how much more of an impact this content would have if I posted something like, "These are awesome ideas for St. Paddy's Day. I especially love number 7. Which is your favorite?" Why is this important? Well, this article that's posted here, it was written by Better Homes and Gardens. And if you're my friend and you share this with me, at first, if you've written nothing, I have no connection with Better Homes and Gardens. They may be trying to get my attention, but I have no reason to click unless the headline is so strong that it grabs me or the photography is so great that I just feel inspired to click. But even if the headline doesn't grab me, if you, who are my friend, or if you have a business page and I've taken the time to like your business page, there's a good chance you've earned some trust with me, and that if you put a sentence in there saying how much you love this article, I trust you, and there's a good chance I will click that article. So engagement rate's going to go up a lot when you're sharing something if you add in your own words. So if you're on several different social media accounts, it can be tempting at times to sync all of your accounts as a time saver or just copy and paste the same message into all of your accounts. And if you're guilty of doing this in the past, don't feel too bad because, being completely honest, I've done it as well. But what I've come to learn is that we don't communicate the same way on every different social media platform. So where hashtags are useful and have a great purpose on Twitter and Instagram, they aren't nearly as effective, and sometimes they're even off-putting on Facebook. And if I'm following you on both Instagram and Facebook, for example, and every day you post the same content on both, I might find that annoying and choose to stop following you on one of those accounts. What's the incentive to follow you in different places if it's all the exact same stuff? So even if it's a subtle change in the way you word a sentence, consider being unique on each social media platform you post to. All right, this slide I say carefully, but I'm just going to say discussion and interaction, you know what, that's a great thing on social media. But every now and then, and I'm sure some of us have experienced this, someone's going to bring up a touchy subject that people have a wide range of views on. And these are the ones that get your blood boiling. And sometimes it's tempting to add your voice into these conversations, or you might want to post your own belief. But just keep in mind that if the subject is something that's controversial to some, and there are a lot of people on both sides of the issue, you may be doing yourself a disservice by getting involved in this conversation. So even if you're right and you can back up your own opinion, someone who disagrees with you, they may have done business with you in the past, but they might remember this when it's time to sell his or her home, and they might think, hey, you know what, we're pretty apart on this issue that's quite important to me. But like I said earlier, this is one of those subjects I try to speak about carefully because I'm not trying to dissuade anyone from standing up to what they think is right or anything like that. All I'm saying is be careful about it. I know on my own personal Facebook, I have those 3 or 4 friends who feel the need to add their voice to every single debate that comes their way. So topics might be something like vaccination or even whether or not to see 50 Shades of Grey. It sounds ridiculous, but after a while, these people who comment on every single debate, it starts to get annoying, and I take their opinion less seriously. So discussions on social media can range, and you're not always going to have positive news to share. That's just life. But I'd say most of the time, social media is a place to talk about the things that are positive. Those who constantly talk about negative things on social media, they really stand out. And those who continually complain about their lives, they really, really stand out. So this is kind of a funny meme that's pictured, but it's true. Some friends will post about how exhausted they are after having to work 6 days of the week instead of 5. I would strongly advise against these types of negative complaining posts. People love being encouraged on social media. So for the most part, try to keep your posts positive. All right. So before joining RE/MAX of Western Canada, I was a journalist for a newspaper here in Kelowna. And this slide, it's a little bit funny, but it's a little bit sad as well, thinking what people fall for. And I've seen this happen, even a few agents who are guilty of this. So you see articles that are like, Facebook is going to begin charging users $2.99 per month starting November 1st. Hoax news story headlines, they're generated with the hopes of grabbing your attention. They're going to announce something that's unbelievable because literally you shouldn't believe it, or they'll mention something that makes you outraged. Do you remember Apple Wave? So this was a hoax announcement that made its way through social media. I think it was a couple of years ago, and it was announcing that Wave, which is an iOS 8 exclusive, allows you to charge your device in the microwave thanks to microwave frequencies. So just put your phone in the microwave for 1.5 minutes and voila, your phone will be charged. Unfortunately, a few people actually tried to do this, as you see at the photo on the bottom of the slide. Please, please, please do your research before quickly hitting share and spreading these messages to your networks. The result of you doing so is that you're going to come off as gullible and even foolish. But some positive news, I guess. Facebook announced this January that it's going to be clamping down on these hoax news stories. This, in the future, may not even be an issue, but for the time being, something worth being aware of. All right, so we've gone over the content that is wise to avoid on social media. So now we're going to get into the better stuff. What is good content, and more importantly, what is great content? So one of the reasons we encourage our sales associates to like us on Facebook, RE/MAX of Western Canada on Facebook, is because we're providing shareable content on pretty much a daily basis. So this makes it slightly easier for those agents who are very busy, and they have a resource they can take from and spread stories to their networks rather than having to find the content themselves, which can be time-consuming at times. So content you share from RE/MAX of Western Canada's page, or any relevant content you find elsewhere that you choose to share, is considered good content, but that's based on one condition. You have to add your voice to the content you're sharing. There's a huge difference between sharing a link, and this is what I mentioned earlier, and sharing a link that you have commented about with added context about why you're sharing that link or what people can expect to see. Like I said before, if I'm Facebook friends with you, if I've liked your business page, there's a good chance I trust your opinion, and I want to know what you have to say. Just posting a link with no context, I'm far less likely to engage with that post. On Facebook, as soon as you click share, there's a space where you can write text. On Twitter, instead of just clicking retweet, you can do a manual retweet. It's a little more complicated, but essentially you just copy the text from the tweet that you want to retweet. You create a fresh tweet and just put the letters RT in front of the pasted tweet. And then if there's any room, if you have any space left in your 140 characters, you can even add your own 2 cents at the beginning of that. And then that way you can kind of say, this is a great article or something, if that's what it's linking to. Built into many social media networks these days are topics that are trending. So within Twitter, you can get very specific, and you can choose the location you want to get trending information from. I believe it's still focused on major cities, though. So as an example, if you're in Lethbridge, Alberta, you may want to consider setting your trends information to Calgary, or you can do Canada, whatever you want, but you can localize it that way. And this shows what's going to be most talked about, or what is being most talked about by Twitter users in your region. And these aren't always going to be appropriate and useful, but sometimes they'll give you an idea of how you can join a bigger conversation and how your tweet may go further than just simply those who follow you. So using this example, you see at the bottom, a couple days ago, hashtag National Puppy Day was trending. So how could you use this? Well, just as an example, why not post a link to pets that need to be adopted in your community and then use the hashtag National Puppy Day? Or perhaps the SPCA has a relevant article on their website that you can link to. So this way you're providing valuable information that you're localizing and making relevant to your community while using a bigger hashtag. So not only that, you're adding your voice to a trending topic that people are going to be keeping an eye on. Sure, it's great to provide information and content that relates to real estate. Yes, that's ideal, but I believe it's equally as important to provide information that shows you're involved, active, and knowledgeable about the community you live in. So Facebook also provides trending stories, and it may be more rare that you come across any useful content here. However, it might be worth keeping an eye on. As with any content you share, though, be sure to add your own voice and sentence if you choose to share any articles. And there's a pro and con to using Facebook trending stories. The pro is that typically these articles are already enjoying good interaction rates, so there's a good chance by you sharing them, people are going to find them interesting and engaging. However, the con, if you're picking it up off of the Facebook trending list, there's a good chance a lot of other people have probably seen this already. So I'd be pretty picky with what you choose to share off of Facebook's list of trending news, and always look for creative ways to localize the story and make it relevant to your network. So now we move into the best of the best, and that's posting great social media content. And you know, there are a lot of sales associates out there doing some really great things on social media, and it's impossible to mention every single example. But I think it would be a mistake to mention my first tip for posting great social media content without highlighting a page called My North Langley. So Michael Thorne is a RE/MAX agent, and I'm sure many of you have met him and possibly heard him speak. He recently spoke at R4 with his presentation, Social Media, It's Not the Wrench That Makes a Good Mechanic. So in 2011, Michael and his friend Tyler created a Facebook page called My North Langley. The page, which focuses on Walnut Grove, Fort Langley, and Willoughby, has become a community hub where news is shared, discussions happen, and essentially the community meets. So there are dozens of examples of how this page incorporates great social media. But here's one that Michael utilized on the page last December. So he provided information about where Santa was going to be on December 21st and encouraged the community to post about Santa's location so everyone could follow the progress of the tour. He also gave information about the times and when caroling would start, and ended it by sharing a reminder to bring any non-perishable food items for the Langley Food Bank. And as far as the interaction, well, you can see down here, we've got 50 likes, 35 comments, 34 shares. I'm hoping that by seeing examples like this, you can see how these types of posts create value, they encourage involvement, and ultimately they benefit the community. At first, you might question how something like this can benefit your business. Well, along with all the helpful community information and discussion, Michael adds videos such as Real Estate Buzz updates where he educates the community on the latest market trends. And of course, he takes the opportunity to offer a free, no-obligation evaluation of the viewers' homes and his own contact information. I think it's a safe thing to say that people who regularly use the My North Langley page, when it comes time to selling their homes, Michael is going to be, if not top of mind, very close to top of mind. And I use the My North Langley page as an example, and I fully understand that for some of you this isn't really an option. It's a huge time commitment to build something like this, and creating such a following, it takes time. But hopefully, and what I'm hoping through all these great examples is that maybe you pull a nugget here or something there that you can incorporate, or something might spark an idea that you think, hey, I can do this with my own social media. So, for example, keeping an eye on local news, it might give you a window of opportunity to be informative and provide helpful content to those in your network. So we know from various social media research studies that posts with images tend to get better interaction and engagement than text-only posts. And that should come as a surprise to no one, really. If you're attempting to read a 1,000-word article, one version has 8 images scattered throughout the text, the other has no images. You're much more likely to fully read the text that has images that break it up. Smartphones are ubiquitous, and the cameras keep getting better on them, so it's becoming much easier for us to snap pictures. But sometimes I think we get a bit lazy with our iPhones and just don't focus too much on the quality of the image. On this slide, there are 2 pictures, and both were taken by myself during Peyton Manning's speech at R4. The photo on the left was taken with my iPhone, and the photo on the right was taken from the same distance, but I had a Canon digital SLR camera, and I had a zoom lens that I used for that shot. So I fully respect that smartphone camera technology is improving, it's getting better all the time, but the difference between these 2 photos is night and day. And it's pretty clear to see which is more likely to get better engagement on social media. I understand not everyone has a digital SLR camera, but the thing is there's a lot of agents I've talked to who do have one, but sometimes it's just convenient for us to say, you know, I'm not going to lug that thing around, I'm not going to bring it to an event. But just think, if you're going to somewhere, to an event, to a community activity, and it's somewhere you're planning on taking photos at anyways, you might be missing out on an opportunity to capture higher quality images than everyone else is taking. So it's just something to keep in mind. But there are those people who don't have like higher quality cameras, there are still things you can do with your smartphone to improve the quality of your images. So first off, when taking a photo, don't just take one. Take multiple shots. Because if you just take one and then you get back and you're about to post that, or you're about to post it from your phone, you might realize, hey, this image, if someone was blinking, it didn't turn out great. The more images you take, the better chance you got one good shot. And try taking them from different angles as well to see what looks best. After you have the photos on your phone, it's wise to use a photo editing app. So there's a lot out there. Instagram is a pretty basic one, but it's very easy because it's built right into the social network. And there you can add filters, you can crop the photo. Essentially, you can make that photo look better. There are also other apps, such as Manual, that you might want to look into, and those actually make your phone like a digital SLR camera, and they allow you to change shutter speed and ISO. So if you know a bit about photography, that may be something worth looking into as well. So Valerie Garcia, and she's not the one pictured here, but she's the Director of Training at Remax Integra, and she hosted a technology session at R4 where she shared this Cisco stat, and it's that 90% of online traffic will be video in 2015. It's a bit crazy to think that that's the kind of influence video has on the Internet. The picture on this slide is a screenshot of a video created by Melanie Gallia of Remax Fort McMurray. So rather than just stand out in front of the camera and talk, Melanie made the video funny, entertaining. She acted out situations that she is willing to go through to help you find the right home or sell your house. She calls her video The Hats of Real Estate, and she has that URL as well. It's hatsofrealestate.com. So after viewing the video, her name is top of mind. It's easy to remember. And as you can see here, her video has nearly 1,800 views on YouTube, and in terms of the comments, it's all thumbs up. As I mentioned earlier as well in the webinar, Colin Krieg and his dad Wolf have also found great success shooting video. And it might be easy to say, hey, I don't have the proper equipment to do that. I can't shoot that high quality of video footage. However, you can still produce quality video on your smartphone. Again, there are ways to edit your footage, and there's apps out there that can give you pretty cool effects. One, for example, is Hyperlapse, and that allows you to shoot time-lapse videos, which has a cool effect. But on a practical note, and this might be aside from social media, but just something to keep in mind, Hyperlapse has image stabilization. So even if you're not speeding up, doing it kind of twice as fast or 4 times as fast as the normal speed, even if you're doing it on the normal time, that image stabilization might help you. So if you're doing a walkthrough of a house, of a listing, that type of thing, it might help you avoid that bumpy camera look. All right, too often, and trust me, I've been guilty of this in the past as well, we treat social media like it's all about us. We decide something is worth telling others about, then we just tell them to do something because we say so. In a sense, it's almost narcissistic to think that we should expect others to do something just because we say it's a good idea. A better use of social media is the posting of content that is conversational. So there are a few ways to do this. First tip, mention people in your post. So on Twitter, you can include their Twitter handle. That's the little @ sign followed by their name. On Facebook, if you're friends with them, you can tag them in a post. You just start typing their name, and it should auto-populate and pop up there. One way that this might increase engagement is if you're mentioning someone, they're much more likely to do something with that, but also it kind of makes them feel a little bit special. You chose them specifically to bring into a comment, and it's just a good idea of practicing good social. Number 2, when you post something, ask a question that encourages comments and participation. So for example, check out these spring maintenance tips. Are there any on this list that you're planning on tackling in the coming weeks? Which do you think is most important? So that type of conversational sentence above your post, it will give you a better chance of getting interaction in the comment section. Number 3, if other people comment or ask you questions or try to interact in any way with you on social media, please be sure that you're acknowledging them. So this might be done by a reply to their comment if it's appropriate. If they send you a message, of course, message them back. But even if they just put a comment that doesn't really, it wouldn't work to reply to that, it's always a good idea to just click that like button and just like what they have said. You know, it's a small gesture, but it shows that you appreciate they took the time to comment on content that you are posting. All right, so bringing me to the end of the webinar here, that brings me to today's points. So point number 1, posting content is a great way to promote interaction and encourage discussion. Number 2, unique content that provides value is always the best. click 3 and 4 pretty quick there. Add your voice to any content you share. And the last one, quality photos and video content will help you stand out in a good way on social media. Well, I want to thank everyone who took the time to watch the webinar today. I really appreciate it. I'm going to be posting a recording to our YouTube channel, and it will also be shared on the Region Update website. Once again, that's remax-western.ca/blog. And as always, I appreciate any feedback, whether it's through the Twitter hashtag, through email, phone call. If you're ever out in Kelowna, I'd love to meet you in person as well. My contact details are up on this slide. And I hope everyone has a fantastic Wednesday. Thank you.